you know, flat with no aggregate, sand,
Right.
cement,
So you want to make
between
sure
it.
the knucklehead that did the test before you didn't leave a bunch of debris on the inside of this. Okay.
Can you check the edge by running your fingers over it, or is that?
Yeah. So a lot of times, what I do is I'll put my finger across here so you can actually feel it and make sure that it. I just screwed this up, but so you don't feel any. You know, you can kind of feel the granulars, right? Okay, so now we got my funnel. Okay, so you want to add at least 1 pint of water in before you add the alcohol. So the alcohol there is kind of
It says 2 to 1, huh?
disperse the foam. So one of the things you're going to have to ask the examiner is how much alcohol should I add? Okay, so he's going to tell you how much alcohol to add. Okay, so we won't add that much because we only brought like 4 jugs for all of you guys. So let's pretend we're going to add 3 pints, but I'm not going to add 3 pints. Okay, so I'm going to add just a little bit. So it's important that you add that 1 pint of alcohol, or 1 pint of water before you add the alcohol. Okay. So, and then basically just fill this guy up with water.
So it's 2 pints of water, 1 pint alcohol?
Well, you add the first pint of water, okay? Because they don't want you pouring alcohol directly onto the concrete. So they want you to add a pint of water in there first, and then you can add the alcohol. And again, you need to ask the examiner, how many pints of alcohol should I add? Okay, and then he'll tell you. He'll arbitrarily pick some number. Okay. Yeah, I mean, basically all you're trying to do is this does kind of help to kind of disperse the water around. This funnel doesn't seem to be, these are a lot smaller than ours.
Oh yeah, the metal volumetric meters. First of all, they're heavier. They're just a pain in the butt. We have plastic ones at our lab.
So what you want to do is you want to fill this thing up so that the bottom, the key word here is bottom of the meniscus. And if you guys have ever read water out of a graduated cylinder or something like that, you know, that water ends up showing up like a smiley face. Okay, so the bottom of the meniscus, you want to get that thing lined up at the 0 mark.
Bottom of the smiley, the bottom of the curve is the meniscus. The meniscus is the actual curve. So bottom of the meniscus.
So the key word there is meniscus. You know, so that's something that they're going to look for. Most of those guys probably don't know what it is, but
they know the word.
They know the word, so you need to say it. You're recording all this, right?
No.
You'll be a YouTube hit in the concrete world.
All right. So you fill this thing up, and
it's hard to see from where y'all are all standing, but there is a scale on there.
Right. So maybe you guys come by and quickly look at it before I seal this thing up. You can kind of see the graduations here, and there's a line there for 0. So you want to fill that thing up.
I don't think it's on this side.
Yeah.
So it should be up to that level, right?
Yeah,
Maximum.
you can kind of see it. Okay, so basically just screw tap this guy on. Okay, and this is where things start getting confusing. Make sure this thing's on tight, otherwise You or the guy next to you is going to be wearing it. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is you actually end up inverting it. Okay, so you can only keep it inverted for no longer than 5 seconds. And so you need to kind of do the, yeah, so that's kind of about, I lose track usually after 4, so, but it needs to be done a minimum of 45 seconds. Okay, so you kind of keep it up, tilt it up, 1 Scooby-Doo, 2 Scooby-Doo, 3 Scooby-Doo, 4 Scooby-Doo, 5 Scooby-Doo, and then bring it back down. And then bring it back up. And you kind of, if you can, you kind of try and rotate it. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get all that concrete, you know, in this little mini keg, kind of moving around, okay, agitated. So you kind of pull it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then bring it down. And this thing can get slippery and snot, so make sure you hold on to it. And so you can kind of hear it moving around, and that's what you're kind of listening for, is to get the stuff moved around and get all the aggregate at the bottom of the bowl moved, dislodged. You want to keep track? So you'll see different techniques at the exam. This is like the old man technique. So you'll see a lot of different techniques.
You can do it.
Yeah, basically.
You said 10 times, right?
Well, yeah, you need to do it 9. You need to do it for a duration of 45 seconds.
45 seconds. Don't worry about 9 and 10 times, because 45 seconds is how long it is.
Yes. Okay. So then after you get done with that, you take it down low. Okay, so you hold it here at about a 45-degree angle. Okay, and what you do is you rotate it 1/3 of a turn, and then you agitate it by moving it 1/2 to 1/4 of a turn. Okay, and then you roll it back 1/3, 1/4 to 1/2, like this. Okay, and you do this for a period of 1 minute. Okay. So a lot of times in the exam, they'll just say, assume it's been 1 minute. They don't want to watch you do this for a whole minute.
So pretty much turns it another kind of forward, turns it. Just leave it like that?
Right.
Okay. Easy? Yeah. So after you've done this for a minute, what you do is you go ahead and pop the top. This is what failed me on the first time I did it. I did this whole sequence, thing takes freaking ever. And then forgot to pop the top. It's like, you forgot to take the top off. It's like, oh my God, we gotta do this all over again. It's terrible. So you pop the top, and then what you're looking for is that the bottom of the meniscus is actually stabilized. Okay. And the definition of it stabilizing is that the level, okay, hasn't moved by more than 1/4% over a 2-minute period. Okay. So you're gonna pop the top, and you're gonna say, okay, I'm waiting for this thing to stabilize. So what he's gonna say, okay, what's stabilization? It hasn't moved by more than 1/4% over a 2-minute period. Okay. So then he's gonna say, let's assume it's stabilized, what you're reading. Okay, and so you look down here, and you look on the side where the graduations are. Okay, and so the bottom of the meniscus here is at 3 1/4. So I want everybody to come by and look at it so they actually can see what we're looking at.
Right. So just a little foam.
So you're reading at the bottom. You're not reading the foam. Okay. You're reading at where the water line is. Okay. We've kind of wet this thing up, so it's kind of segregated a little bit, so you can kind of see that. We have a little bit of water. But what you're reading is this line right there.
Right here?
Okay.
This is the foam, and then this is the foam right here, and then this is the bottom. This
No.
is
That's, yeah, right here is where the bottom is.
Okay.
See right there?
Okay.
Okay, you got foam. Because we're using this this sacrete, it's
Separate.
segregated a little bit.
Okay.
So this is where you're actually reading, which is about 3 1/4.
Okay.
Okay. So our initial reading is 3.25%. Okay. So we have to kind of mentally note that as our initial reading. Okay. So you tell the examiner my initial reading is 3.25%. Okay. Then we got to do this whole monkey business again. So we put the top back on.
If you forget your number, you can ask him. Yeah, right.
Yeah, he might have forgotten it too.
Oh, he doesn't jot it down?
Nah, I mean, if you forget, I mean, most of the examiners are pretty, I mean, they've been all through it before. I mean, the requirement for being the examiner is they have to have done it before. So they understand sort of what you guys are doing and that you're nervous and things like that. So they're you still have to do it right. But if you say I forgot, you know, maybe they'll just make up a number or something like that. Or
You have an understanding of the procedure.
Yeah.
They're a little more forgiving.
okay, I mean,
You know, they're not testing your memory as far as, what was that number?
So 3.25% is our initial reading. So again, you don't take it up high. Again, you just keep it down low. And again, a third of a turn, you agitate it by a quarter to a half a turn. Okay, just like that.
And the term is vigorous. So,
Hey man, I'm tired.
yes.
It's as vigorous as it's gonna get. So you do that for a period of 1 minute. Okay. Then after you're done, again, bottle top. Okay. And then again, you say, okay, I'm waiting for my reading to stabilize. Okay, and the definition of it stabilizing, it hasn't moved by more than 1/4% over a 2 minute period. Okay, it's very important you understand what the definition of stabilizing is. Okay, now if it keeps moving, there's a lot of little caveats to this whole business. If it hasn't stabilized within a 6 minute period, okay, you discard the sample, you start a whole new sample, and you add more alcohol. If you don't know the answer to the question that they're asking, just say, I start all over and I add more alcohol. Because that's a pretty good chance that answer is going to be right, okay? I'm being serious. Like, the name of the game is if something bad happens, you do no test and you just add more alcohol. That's kind of the...
Safety net.
I'm kind of joking, but I'm
it
also
the
pretty
answer for
serious.
life?
What's that?
Is the answer for life?
I would say a definite yes. Just start all over. We're going to read this again, and in this particular case, my reading is right at just under 3.5%. So I'm going to call this 3.5%. Okay, that's my second reading. Now, if your second reading is within 1/4% of your first reading, then your second reading is your final reading. Now, if we looked at this thing and it said 4%, it's not within 1/4%. So what we do is you record that 4% as your new initial reading. You do it again, okay? And you look at it again. If your new reading is within 1/4%, so if it's 4.25%, okay, that'll be your final reading. If it's something really astronomical high, okay, what do?
Add more alcohol.
Yeah, you discard the sample, add more alcohol, and do it all over again from start to
Most
finish.
times, whoever rock and roll it, they call it, is 3 times.
Right. So, right now, one of the things that could happen, and they'll ask you is sort of and lately they've been throwing dummy concrete in there. So what they've been doing lately is they're overdosing on air on one of the wheelbarrows.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the wheelbarrows may be like 15% air. And what happens is, if you can look at this thing, there's only graduations up to 9. So you may pull this thing up and look down, and there's no meniscus in the graduations, you know. And so you may ask, what do I do? Well, there's this little thing in here that looks like a shot glass. Okay, and this thing here represents by volume 1% of air on that neck. Okay, so you add these sort of calibrated cups till the bottom of the meniscus gets up to the graduation. Okay, and then you add that to your final air reading. Okay, so let's say we added 5 calibrated cups, okay, to get to 8% on the neck. What would our final air reading be? Yes, 13%. So you add the 5 calibrated cups to the reading on the neck, and that ends up being 13%. Now, to further complicate matters, is if you add more than 2 pints of alcohol, there's a correction factor for the alcohol. Okay, so in our particular case, we added, well, we didn't really add, but we pretended to add 3 pints. Okay, so anything over 2, any additional pints over that, it's 1/4%. Okay, so if you, and it's deduction, right?
I'm pretty sure.
Pretty sure it's deduction.
Yeah.
Anybody?
I think you take it away both on pressure meter and on volumetric.
I believe so too. Anybody? Anybody?
I'll say deduction. We're gonna go with
Okay, this isn't a democracy. It's like what there's somebody read it off the
Minus the alcohol correction factor.
Okay, thank you. Glad somebody's keeping track. Okay, thank you, Philip.
Yeah, I should have done that.
So, if we use 3 pints of alcohol and 5 calibrated cups, and our reading on our neck is 8%, what's our final reading?
You said how many cups?
Say again?
5 calibrated cups.
13.
We add up to the neck on an 8%, and we add 3 pints of alcohol.
13.
13.
Plus
Minus-
3. With 3. You said 3 alcohols?
No, you take away
You take point
1.25,
right?
so
Yeah,
So it'll be
12.75.
1, yeah.
and they will ask you that.
What
So you got to do all that
12.75.
craziness in your head. Okay, actually, I think that's the exact question that they ask typically. So,
We
but,
gotta agree.
but yeah, so any additional pints of alcohol over 2 is 1/4%. Okay, so if you had 4 pints of alcohol, you got to deduct 5% or 0.5%. Okay, make sense?
Just to make sure you do fill those cups with water, correct?
Yeah. So in real life, you take this thing and I don't think I've ever done this before, to be quite
Well,
honest
you
with you.
take the booger, the snot, yeah. That's how you do it. You don't just, because you can spill, blah, 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 yada, yada.
The booger thing.
Oh, you take that, you suck it up in there, put it in there.
Oh, really? Yeah. Good to see you here again.
Actually, 10 years ago, about 10 years ago, the method used to be, instead of reading the bottom of the mist, and I don't want to confuse y'all, but you used to actually add alcohol and then subtract how many of these to disperse the alcohol, the foam. But ignore that, because they don't do that anymore. So, I mean, obviously you want this on a flat surface.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, you fill that up, you can fill it up like you did, but I don't know why I did it like that. And then you actually extract it from there. Throw it in there, and then make sure you pour the rest. Very scientific.
It's good technique. I didn't even know.
Kind of like
You learn something. There's always opportunities for improvement, man. Always opportunities for improvement. So that's 95% of the test. Now the next thing you have to do is to make you go outside and then disassemble the meter. And then what you have to look at the bottom. And this one's gonna be kind of goofy because we're using Sackcrete, so it's kind of hard to tell. But what you're looking for is undisturbed material at the bottom of the bucket. So you'll go outside and you'll take the thing apart and you'll shake out the material, and it'll say, okay, what are you looking for, and whatever. And you say, well, I'm looking for undisturbed material at the bottom of the bucket. Now, hopefully, if you did it right, and it's pretty hard to screw up, you won't have any undisturbed material, and then you can say, I don't have any undisturbed material, therefore this is a valid test. And
If there is, will they make you
It's up to the decision of the examiner. So he may make you redo the whole thing all over again. But
Or he may say, okay, so what do? And then you tell him, well, I discard this and do it over, and then he goes, okay, cool, you're good.
yeah,
Add more alcohol.
yeah, Almar.
As long as you know the steps and procedures, they're generally good.
Yeah, okay.